Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.
A very good evening, and thanks for spending it here with us at Q2. I'm Samantha Harrelson in for Dustin Kleeman tonight. 2 Yellowstone County Sheriff's deputies on administrative leave tonight after shooting and injuring a man in Lockwood early this morning. Around 6:30 a.m., deputies were called to the 1900 block of Canary Avenue for a check on a man who was reportedly suicidal. According to the press release, one deputy looked inside the residence with his flashlight and was confronted by a man with a handgun. An unknown number of shots were fired and the man was hit. He was transported to a local hospital and is expected to survive. His identity has not yet been released. Detectives have now applied for a warrant to search the residence. According to the sheriff's office, 2 deputies involved are Tyler Sennett, a 1.5-year veteran of the force, and Brendan Trujillo, who joined the Yellowstone County Sheriff's Office in September of 2017 after 6 years of law enforcement experience with a different agency. Neither deputy was injured, and both have been placed on paid administrative leave per department protocol pending a review of the incident. Now we head to Washington, where lawmakers have spent their day looking for a way to get the government back open before the start of the work week on Monday. But the only agreement so far seemed to be that someone else is to blame for the shutdown. Weijia Zhang reports from Capitol Hill, where the Senate is in for another late night.
The Senate chaplain opened Sunday session with an urgent prayer for lawmakers.
Direct their steps as they discontinue the blame game.
But on day 2 of the federal government shutdown, the blame game was still going strong.
Lines all across America are laying the blame for this government shutdown right at the feet of Senate Democrats and their filibuster.
Republicans have a short-term spending bill to fund the government. Democrats so far have rejected it.
It all really stems from the president, whose inability to clinch a deal has created the Trump shutdown.
Democrats want a deal to protect so-called dreamers and say President Trump backed away from their tentative immigration compromise.
All along, the president's saying, well, I'll do DACA and dreamers in return for the wall. He's got it. Can't take yes for an answer.
Some Republican lawmakers have also expressed frustration with President Trump and the White House.
I think he's got a good understanding of what will sell, and every time we have a proposal, it is only yanked back by staff members.
Senator Lindsey Graham and more than 20 colleagues from both sides of the aisle huddled Sunday to come up with a new compromise.
We're making progress. We're making progress. We agree on that.
Now they're trying to sell their leaders on a plan to reopen the government before Monday morning. Weijia Zhang, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has set the next vote for after 1 a.m. Eastern Time. And here in Montana, the effects of a shutdown are being felt. That is especially true for our military families. In Great Falls, one military wife and mother of 2 says regardless of what side of the political spectrum you fall on, elected officials have a duty to the people.
It isn't about if you're a Republican or you're a Democrat. You're elected by the American people, and you're supposed to have our best interest at heart. It's a very dangerous precedence to be set when we continually furlough our civilians and we shut down our government.
Personnel at both Malmstrom Air Force Base and Montana Air National Guard won't get paid until the government is back up and running. Once that happens, federal employees should receive back pay. Coming up at 10, we'll hear more about the stress the government shutdown is causing for military families around the country. And the last time the government shut down back in 2013, parks were closed. That included both national parks and monuments like the National World War II Memorial in Washington, D.C. At the time of the shutdown, veterans were in Washington for the Big Sky Honor Flight. Q2 was there with them when barriers initially kept them away from the monument. For some veterans, this was their one chance to see the memorials, and Big Sky Honor Flight organizers worked to get them past those fences. Security guards did not block them, and thankfully, they were able to see the memorial and pay their respects. Back in Billings tonight, dozens marched downtown for the 11th annual Billings March for Life. The march marks the anniversary of the 1973 Supreme Court decision on Roe v. Wade. That, of course, is the case which legalized abortion in the United States. The group today started out at St. Patrick's Church and walked in silence to the courthouse. Al Ozetsky and Matt Rosendale both running for the Montana Senate seat, spoke to the crowd about the challenges ahead in their fight against abortion.
It is critically important that we change the culture, as you well know. If we change the culture from one that defends life instead of discards life, it will be much easier. You cannot legislate all of that. It has to come from within the individual.
This march comes as hundreds of thousands of people take to the streets for the second annual Women's March in support of women's rights, often including the right to abortion. We'll have more on those efforts going on across the country in just a little bit. But finally, before we take a break, with the nice weather today, not quite as difficult to imagine those outdoor activities. On the final day of the Great Rocky Sports Show, people did just that, finding ideas for their next outdoor adventures. Rattlesnake Dave and his West Texas Rattlesnake Show entertained during the show's 3-day run. Outdoor enthusiasts from Montana and Wyoming attended, along with companies from not only the state but around the world. Those at the show can find plenty of information and products related to hunting, fishing, boating, and plenty of other outdoor activities.
People kind of get tired of the hustle and bustle of life, and to escape that in the outdoors is something that everyone enjoys, kind of enjoying downtime with your family. Here you get to know the lodge owner themselves, maybe the store owner themselves, because they're down here and you get to talk to them face to face.
The Billings show is the second of 4. The first was in Helena, and the show now moves to Bozeman before hitting Missoula in March.